Major underwriting for A Taste of Louisiana with Chef John Folse was provided by the Baton Rouge Convention and Visitors Bureau. In Baton Rouge, our past is your present. Baton Rouge, authentic Louisiana at every turn. And People's Drug Stores, serving South Louisiana for generations. George and Shirley Picu are proud supporters of A Taste of Louisiana with Chef John Folse. And by the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting. Our mission is to tell Louisiana's story to the world. And by the Louisiana Department of Culture, Recreation, and Tourism.
Where you have this architecture, history, music.
And the bittersweet cry of the blues.
Especially the blues.
There you go.
How about a dozen?
Red beans and rice.
We rolling, y'all.
We're a nation of immigrants, a country with roots in other soils. Nowhere is that more true than in the country of Louisiana. I'm Chef John Folse, inviting you to tune in to A Taste of Louisiana and a new series dedicated to our food heritage. Louisianians are descendants of 7 primary nations that have influenced every dish we cook today. Welcome to A Taste of Louisiana. All right. How y'all doing? Nice to see you again, Marie. Good to see you. How you doing? How y'all doing? Hey, are you? Nice to see you. Nice to see you. How y'all doing? Hey, y'all. How are you? Y'all, it's so great to have you with us today as we continue here in my kitchen to search out those great and wonderful unique foods and cultures that make up the Creole nations of Louisiana, or what actually set the foundation of our wonderful cuisine and culture. Today is no different, and you are so lucky because we're doing the Spanish cuisine and culture of North Louisiana around Los Adayas and around the Natchitoches Cane River area, which you're going to learn a whole lot about in just a second. In food, you're in for a treat. We have a couple of great dishes for you. I'm not gonna take away the surprise yet, but you're in for it. I'm gonna feed you too, so y'all just sit right where you are here. Y'all, when we think of the Spanish in America today, thoughts immediately travel to the Southwest, especially West Texas and the Mexican border. But you know, in the 1700s, the Spanish border was just 6 miles from the French fort at Natchitoches. The Spanish stronghold, Fort Los Adayas, grew, and their cultural influences still impact Louisiana today. Join Ray Berthelot, Caramel Cox, and me in a Spanish story that's quite intriguing. Just 15 miles west of French Natchitoches is the Spanish Presidio, or Fort Our Lady of the Pillar of the Adayas. This fort was built in 1721, about 7 years after the founding of Natchitoches by Saint Denis, and was built in reaction to the French presence there.
I am an Adesanya. Literally, that's a descendant of the people from Adayas that was given them in 1773. Lieutenant Commander Joseph Gonzalez, in charge of this Presidio in 1734, was actually my grandfather 9 generations back.
The fort was named for the local Native American tribe and an apparition of the Virgin Mary in Zaragoza, Spain in 40 AD. The Franciscan fathers hoped the local Indians would offer their labor in exchange for Christian instruction.
And in hoping to do so, by converting Native Americans, the hope was that the Catholic Church would be able to rally the Native Americans to the Spanish cause, and that the Native Americans would actually establish Spanish settlements around the Presidios, where the Presidios would protect the settlements.
Spanish settlers, including a tailor, blacksmith, wet nurse, gravedigger, musicians, a barber and cobbler, built huts outside Fort Los Adayas. Retired soldiers lived here as well and were given plots of land as part of their pension.
First and foremost, this was a military site. As such, the main force, or the main population here, was made up of soldiers or soldados. At the high point, there were some 100 soldiers or soldados stationed at this frontier presidio. In the establishment of this frontier complex, the Spanish government saw fit to allow the soldiers to bring their families, and as such, many of them brought their wives and children. Over the generations, a cultural mixing of Spanish ideas and Native American ideas occurred in Mexico. That mixing of ideas was transported over to Los Adayas. So the staples would be Native American or Aztec in origin, such as maize, beans, frijoles, as well as Spanish introduction of such things as cattle, pigs, hogs, for main meat staples. Bringing these things together, what one sees is a typical North Mexican cuisine in the form of empanadas or meat pies, known in this area now as Natchitoches Meat Pies, and of course tamales.
The Spanish settlers grew corn, beans, and peppers, wonderful trade items for French Natchitoches. They raised cattle and horses as well, and most likely conducted a legal trade in Natchitoches for French cloth and wine.
A lot of times the wine coming up the Camino is going to be ruined by the time it gets here. So we have written documentation, I believe, that a Spanish soldier would trade a horse for just one bottle of French wine.
The French and Spanish had been backwoods neighbors for nearly 50 years when news came that Louisiana had been given to the King of Spain in 1762. The inhabitants were little affected.
It's important to remember that because these two groups shared cultural similarities such as Catholicism, and because they were so far away from major points of authority, Natchitoches being quite a distance away from New Orleans, of course, and Los Adayas being quite a distance away from Mexico City, the two groups did really depend on one another for survival in the wilderness. They shared foodways, they shared cultural activities.
And there were many intermarriages between the French and Spanish of this area. In fact, even Saint Denis married a Spaniard. During the Spanish regime in Louisiana, Los Adayas was abandoned and the site of government moved to Natchitoches. In all directions from Mexico City, ranches, missions, and forts were established. Spain pushed settlements into Texas and western Louisiana. All roads leading from these establishments back to the Viceroy in Mexico City were called El Camino Real, or the Road to the King. El Camino Real began in Mexico City and ended here at Los Adayas. In the area surrounding Natchitoches today, the architecture, place names, traditions, and customs reflect a strong Spanish influence. I'm sure that there are so many people out there watching this right now who are saying, I had no clue that there was such a heavy Spanish and French combination of influences in northern Louisiana, but absolutely. And y'all, you know the word Creole, we talk about it all the time, and there's some great Creoles in the audience today from Cane River, and that word actually comes from a very old word that many of you have seen. The word Crayola or crayon comes from the word a mixture of color or cultures. So the word Creole is just that. And an example, I guess the best example of Creole development is in that area of Natchitoches, where the African Americans, the Spanish, and the French intermarrying created the mixtures of cultures and colors. And of course, that's what this series is all about, just exploring those unique culture. So I hope that clears up a little bit of that. And I have to introduce a couple of really great, just great guests on the show today. Naturally, y'all hear this great music. When I hear of Neil and Donna Wilkinson sitting over there, and I hear that dulcimer going, I'm really pleased that you're here. Tell us a little bit about the music you're going to play today.
We're playing some Spanish songs. We're going to do La Paloma, which it was written by the Spanish and was popular in Louisiana. Oh, y'all gonna absolutely love the music. I'm hooked on these two guys here. And then of course Ray Berthelot with Louisiana State Parks, Department of State Parks. Thank you so much. You were great in that opening piece, sharing that history with us.
Pleased to be here.
Good. And then my girlfriend. Let me tell you, Marie Roque, she is one of the best meat pie makers in all of Natchitoches, and you're going to see her trying to teach me something about meat pies in just a minute. And y'all, I mentioned just now the mixtures of the Creoles. Of course, hey, Native American first. They were there. They were here first. They're still here today, and of course, they're definitely way up there in those mixtures. What are we cooking today? Well, again, as you look at Louisiana's culinary history, you see that all of these cultures are very definitely evident in the pot. And if you look at my dish today, I have a little shrimp here. Talk about mixtures: shrimp, chicken, sausage, and I have some shrimp here. And look at the rice. We have 3 or 4 different rice options and meat options. We have the flavored popcorn rice of Louisiana. We have a brown rice, as well as a mixture of wild rice that we can choose from whenever we cook rice dishes. And Spain was known for their rice dishes. And even the meats, the smoked meats. This right here is of Spanish origin, the tasso. Folklore tells us that a word tasajo in an old Spanish, I guess maybe a dialect, meant a dried or cured meat like jerky. And of course, this becomes the tasso, or smoked flavoring meat. So what am I doing today? Spain's jump from paella to jambalaya, using the tomatoes that that we all love so much, because tomatoes are strictly American. There was no tomatoes anywhere else in the world. I'm going to begin with a little bit olive oil, very Spanish, and we're growing olives in Louisiana today. In fact, one of the greatest olives to grow here is the Arbequina, one of the Italian olives, and we think the Spanish conquistadors planted olive trees here when they first came through Louisiana so many years ago. So I'm going to put the chicken and the sausage, and I'm going to put about half of my shrimp into the pot, because I need to saute all of the meats to start to get the flavor of this Creole jambalaya, or Spanish jambalaya, as they tried to make their paella, that wonderful saffron rice dish that was impossible to make here until all of the, especially on the frontier, until all of the spices arrived. So we go ahead and we saute this meat in olive oil. And while this is browning here, Ray, I want to ask you a question about, we're talking about the French and the Spanish coexisting. Now, most people would think that in early cultures, forts were set up to keep each other away, but that's not the way it was.
Because they had so much in common, the French and the Spanish, particularly in their religious practices with Catholicism, they really found that they depended on one another to get along, and that they could get along with one another in this frontier setting.
Now, how long did Los Adias, the fort, actually exist there? We know Natchitoches had the French fort, but Los Adias?
Close to 50 years. The actual fort was established by 1721, and it was abandoned by 1773.
Now we talk about coexistence. I mean, Saint Denis, the French commandant, actually married a Spanish woman.
Exactly. And Saint Denis, and his purpose for entering that area was looking for avenues of trade with Mexico.
Right.
And one of the ways he saw it best to do this was to get involved with Spanish culture by marrying.
Well, hey, that was
Spanish
kind of
woman.
chancy, but it worked.
Right.
Okay, y'all. The meat is the meats were the smoke. Do y'all smell that? Oh. Now I'm going to put a little onion, celery, bell pepper. You notice all of these influences, and remember, hot peppers are from South America. Sweet peppers are from the Rio Grande North in our country here. So a lot of the spice in our cooking, even our hot sauces, are very Spanish in origin. So I'm going to put all of those wonderful flavors in here. And once these go in, now I need tomatoes. Tomatoes and a lot of it. Tomato sauce, because remember, those tomatoes are coming up from South America, we think. Fresh tomatoes are going into it. Spicy tomatoes with a little, Tabasco pepper maybe? Just to spice it up. And look how gorgeous that pot is. Now I'm going to add some stock. I have a little chicken stock in here. And y'all, for rice, you want to make sure that 1.5 cups of liquid to every cup of rice. So, you know, if I'm doing 2 cups of rice, I want to make sure I have 3 cups of liquid in here. So I'm going to just stir that around, and naturally I have some already made. I would bring this to a rolling boil. I'd add the rice, as I'm doing now, put a cover on it, turn it down to low, and don't stir it for 30 minutes. You're gonna make grits out of this. So just leave it like it is. So y'all, I'm not gonna finish this because I have some already done. Take a look at this pot right here. It's just absolutely wonderful. Look how gorgeous that is. Huh. Just absolutely beautiful. The Spanish attempt to make paella in early Louisiana. Now y'all, when we think of Spanish food, empanadas are generally a favorite. And to many visitors to Natchitoches, Louisiana, they'll find that classic meat pie there. And I don't think it's much of a jump to consider the similarity between the empanada and the meat pie. Marie Roque, just a wonderful Creole cook from Cane River, shared her kitchen with me and tried to teach me about this regional delicacy. Okay, that's the last one right there. All right, okay. So those are wonderful. Now these are drained well, so all we have to do is put them on this plate. I tell you, we are so lucky today to be in the kitchen right here on Cane River of one of the greatest Natchitoches meat pie makers in all of Louisiana. We're here with Marie Roque, and you've been making meat pies for how long?
Oh, since in the 30s.
Since in the 30s. Now the tradition says that it was the Spanish who came to the fort at Los Adias who actually brought the tradition of the meat pie, and I guess pies that were filled with sweets like the empanadas and all of that, to Natchitoches. Do you know any other history of it, or is it just something that people have been making here forever?
Well, the people right here on Cane River had been making pies forever, because I always remember one of the church fairs, an old lady came along and she would make them at her house all the time, and she sat on the back of her husband's truck and sold her meat pies. And from then on, that's when the church started making large amounts of pies.
Right. Now, there's restaurants who sell meat pies here. Church festivals have meat pies. There's actual meat pie festivals that are put on by different groups. If you want a true meat pie, you have to come to Cane River, right?
I would say yes.
Here we have a basic pie dough. Now, what do you have here? Flour?
Flour, shortening, eggs, and a little milk.
Eggs and milk. And you actually use liquid. You actually melt your shortening to put in here.
Yes, I do.
Right. Now go ahead and roll one of them out for us to see just how thin it is, because it looks like you rolled it into about a 6-inch little disc, right?
Yes, right.
Now, what about, do people have in this area, like gumbo in New Orleans, a different recipe for every meat pie?
I don't think so. Everybody usually use basically the same thing.
Right. But they put a little bit of this and a little bit of that.
Right.
They put their secret in and mess it up.
That's right. Right.
Well, I hear you're the best.
I don't know about that.
Okay, so then we have a little dish. Now the filling. Let's talk about the filling for a minute. What goes into that? What goes into your filling?
That is 5 pounds of ground pork, 5 pounds of ground beef, and about 5 big bell peppers.
Oh, so you put a lot of bell peppers. Well, onion. And I see you have a nice little contraption here. So why don't we go ahead and make one of them? Make one of them up. So you're going to cook the meat. You put it in a skillet and you just cook it long and slow, I guess.
Long and slow. Yes, it has to be cooked slow.
And then I see you chilled it, so you made so that's an ingenious little machine there. So it just makes one pie at a time.
Yes, it does.
Now the pies are fried after they made at what? Oh, look at that! How easy that is. Oh, very, very easy. Just like any other little, like I say, any little empanada or meat pie, and then you put the little vents in it. Now you fry it at about 350 degrees for just a second.
Just a little while, short while.
Okay, now for the reason I came, to eat this pie.
All right.
Y'all take a look at that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The queen of the pie, ladies, on Cane River right here. Y'all, wasn't that a great segment with Marie Roque in her kitchen? You noticed the way I took a mouthful of meat pie? Marie, here she is right here at the table. Marie, can I come maybe spend a weekend and get a second lesson? My dough didn't come out as good as yours.
Your dough will be good if you just put the right thing in there.
Well, yeah, but
That's lovely.
I need another lesson. Marie says one's enough. Y'all, while y'all were gone here, I put a cup of sugar and a quarter cup of water in here to start making a nice caramel. And this is going to cook for a little while. It takes about 6 minutes to do this. I know it wasn't a long stretch, as I said, between the empanada and the meat pie, but no one going to Natchitoches can possibly go there and not search out the great meat pies. They're everywhere. But I really can say the best I ever ate was on your house looking at Cane River. I just wish I had a fishing pole. That's all. It was wonderful. Y'all, we're going to make a great dish here today from the Spanish, the custards, the flans. They were fabulous at it. So I have 5 eggs here. It's basically just a mix, kind of a dump and mix dish. A little salt. I have sugar, 5 eggs, a little, just a touch of nutmeg. You can ground it fresh. It's always nice to take the little nutmeg and ground it here. A little bit of vanilla. A little bit vanilla. I like a lot of vanilla. And take a look at this caramel here. This caramel's really starting to get nicely colored. And you can turn it on low if you want to. It'll start to smoke, and just kind of shake your pan around a little bit. It's going to be wonderful. It's just cooking there. Now, all you have to do here is to turn this on and mix this nicely. Just kind of blend everything together. It won't take long at all to whisk all of this. And then I'll add a little milk to it as well. And Ray, while we talking here, the difference in foods like the empanada and the meat pie, from the Aztecs to the Mexican to the Spanish, what's the difference?
Well, when the Spanish came to Mexico in the early 16th century, the Native Americans there, particularly the Aztecs, already had a rich cooking tradition with things such as empanadas, using corn, peppers, and various kinds of native plants and animals found there.
Right.
And the Spanish just incorporated their cooking traditions, bringing in the use of beef and pigs and whatnot, and blended these two cooking traditions together to create what we know of today as a Mexican or Spanish-Mexican cooking style.
Because I really do think people feel that, you know, that they're the same. You know, and they are in certain ways, just a mixture of all of them. Look at here, y'all. Look at that gorgeous caramel. It only took just a couple of minutes. I have some already done. So I'm going to just pour some down into my little cup like that. Oh, the smell of this is absolutely incredible. And you want to take your time on caramel. A lot of people will say don't put any water in it, just let the sugar melt. You can do that, but you have to watch it. When you put the fire on the caramel, you better be ready to cook. You know, otherwise it's going to sit here and burn and scorch, and it's going to be an issue. Now I have my cream here. I have all of my wonderful eggs, and you talk about the traditional Spanish dish. This is it right here. What about the Camino Real? I mean, that road from Mexico City to Los Angeles. Who was on it?
Well, the El Camino Real was really the lifeline of presidios such as Los Angeles and San Antonio, Texas as well. And on the El Camino Real, you would have the religious friars, you would have tradesmen, soldiers, of course, traveling to El Camino Real, and just any number of merchants, and just the amount of commerce that were going up and down the Camino Real throughout the Spanish colonial period.
The road to the viceroy, huh?
Exactly.
Road to the king. Now we're gonna pour the custard right in. You see, it's just a quick dump and just a quick blend and dump. The most important thing, I guess, is just that making sure you don't burn the caramel. And then take that pan with the caramel that hardens and just go ahead and put it in water, and it'll dissolve very, very quickly. The caramel will just come right off of the side of the pan. And you can actually, if you have a lot of caramel and you do have to stop, just take it off of the heat. It'll harden, add a little water to it, and it'll come right back in. So now, y'all, let's take a look at the finished dish. You talk about good. And y'all, this is what it looks like when it's done. Now, it's cooked in a water bath, which is a pan with about a ½ inch of water in it, 300 degrees for 2 hours, and then you let it chill, preferably overnight. And then look at a gorgeous caramel, and you can decorate it with fruit or a little bit whipped cream and possibly a mint leaf. Absolutely beautiful. What do y'all think of it? Anyway, so that's it right there. And we have a little bit of this makshu, the corn and the black beans and the shrimp. Just another great addition of Spanish cooking as a little treat here. And do I have to tell you about a little nachos and a little bit of this wonderful spicy tomato, like a almost like a pico de gallo or some of these kind of wonderful relishes that you make with tomatoes. And y'all, the olives, did you get a good shot of my olives here? These olives are Spanish olives growing in the sugarcane fields of Louisiana. Absolutely fantastic, a gift from the Spanish. Y'all, time flies when you're enjoying good food and good conversation with friends in the kitchen. Thanks for stopping by as we continue to explore our unique food heritage and cook up another great taste of Louisiana. I'm gonna eat a little custard over here. Maybe a little red Creole rice too. Thank y'all so much.
To purchase the Encyclopedia of Cajun and Creole Cuisine by Chef John Folse, featuring more than 750 traditional recipes, a CD-ROM of the book, or a copy of the program featuring all 3 episodes of Today's Culture, call the number on your screen. Major underwriting for A Taste of Louisiana with Chef John Folse was provided by the Baton Rouge Convention and Visitors Bureau. In Baton Rouge, our past is your present. Baton Rouge, authentic Louisiana at every turn. And People's Drug Stores, serving South Louisiana for generations. George and Shirley Picu are proud supporters of A Taste of Louisiana with Chef John Folse. And by the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting. Our mission is to tell Louisiana's story to the world. And by the Louisiana Department of Culture, Recreation, and Tourism.
Where you have this architecture, history, music,
And the bittersweet cry of the blues.
especially the blues.
There you go.
How about a dozen?
Red beans and rice.
We rolling, y'all.